I'm Noeli and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to talk about what I've learned from Hamilton and what Circus needs to learn from Hamilton. Ooh, she's throwing some shade today. Nah, I love Circus, you know that. And I'm going to let you know at the end of the video whether or not Hamilton is worth the hype. And I'll even put a little Noeli stamp of approval on it if it is. And if you're new here, I dropped out of physical therapy school to become a circus performer, and now I'm sharing circus related videos here on the internet. So if you're interested in that, please subscribe and ring that bell so that you'll be notified every time I upload a new video. The first thing that I learned from Hamilton is that representation matters. And I was really lucky to see Hamilton back in 2018 on Broadway. It was my husband's anniversary gift to us. And it was the first time I've truly seen a cast that was diverse and representative of the modern day society that we live in. And I looked into how they made their casting choices, because I didn't know if it was intentional or not, if all of the principal roles were meant to be played by people of color. And after snooping around on the internet, I learned that Hamilton does color-conscious casting, which is different than colorblind casting. Colorblind casting is a practice of casting without considering an actor's ethnicity, skin color, body type, sex, and/or gender. Color-conscious casting, on the other hand, promotes intentionality and race-conscious affirmative action in order to avoid racially homogeneous casts. So basically what that means is that the people who are casting the shows are making sure that they're covering all of their racial bases and trying to avoid everybody looking exactly the same. And I know affirmative action has gotten a lot of heat in the past, so leave a comment down below if you think affirmative action is racist or not. I'd love to know your opinions on the matter. And the reason why Hamilton practices color-conscious casting is because, and this is a quote from Lin-Manuel Miranda, the genius writer who wrote this and starred as Alexander Hamilton. Let's give him a round of applause before we put his quote up. The idea has always been to look the way America looks now, and that doesn't exclude anyone. And by being conscious of the diversity that they put on their stage, it financially paid off. Because more ethnicities were represented, it opened up the market. More audience members were able to see themselves on that stage and connect with the performers more. Even before Hamilton went on Broadway, they made $32 million. And the moment that they got on Broadway, day after day, they sold out for 5 years. Up until COVID, you know what I mean? I hope that circus companies will look at their past productions and really analyze if their casts are actually diverse or not. And I hope that artistic directors and those in charge of casting shows may practice color-conscious casting and recognize that historically there is discrimination in our circus industry and the importance of putting a person of color on your stage. The second thing I learned from Hamilton is that your voice matters no matter where you came from or how insignificant you feel. Something that inspired me about Alexander Hamilton, despite his many faults, is that even though he was an immigrant, an orphan, and was penniless, he was able to achieve so much in his lifetime and carve out his own path and leave behind a legacy. And even though he wasn't the greatest human being on earth, it's still inspiring to see someone who went from nothing to something. It's really neat how Hamilton used his special abilities in writing to literally write himself into history. And Lin-Manuel Miranda himself said he literally wrote roles for himself because he wanted a life in theater. And I'm gonna pull up another quote for him because he's one of my biggest inspirations, and I think it's very telling what he has to say in this quote. So let me read it to you. I was in college and I realized I didn't dance well enough to play Paul in a chorus line, nor Bernardo. And if you're a Puerto Rican dude, that's what you get. So I began writing In the Heights because I wanted a life in this business. And how we can relate this point back to circus is that right now a lot of circus artists and companies are struggling. And what I hope for you is that you may realize that your art and your voice matters. And I guess I'll get personal with you right now. A month ago, I put out a video about my experience with racism in circus, and I genuinely didn't think anybody would care. And it turned out that a whole lot of people cared, and a whole lot of people saw the discrimination that was going on in my little corner of the world, and that it wasn't just me that wanted change, it was our whole community that wanted change. Or at least most of our community. And even though I felt that my voice was insignificant and small, it turned out that I'm young, scrappy, and hungry, and I wasn't gonna throw away my shot. And now I'm in the room where it happened. Yee! I used all my Hamilton references. And I'm sharing with you that story, not to brag or anything, but because when you speak up, change can actually happen. And I'm witnessing change happen before my very eyes, and it's a very beautiful thing. And so I hope you will use your voice to speak up for what matters to you and be the change you want to see in the world. And the last point that I learned from Hamilton is how to take criticism. And this isn't really about the musical, it's more about how the cast and the genius writer Lin-Manuel Miranda took criticism. And I'm gonna give you my thoughts on this critique of Hamilton that I thought was very interesting. And so this is what the young woman said to Leslie Odom Jr., who played Aaron Burr. Sir. My friends and I talk about Hamilton a lot, and we talk about the fact that we don't think it's revolutionary at all. We just think it's a bunch of people of color telling white people's story again. What do you think of that? And so what Leslie Odom Jr. said in response was, I can't wait to see the story that you create. And so my opinion on what this young woman said to Leslie Odom Jr. Number one, wow, she has guts to say that. And number two, for me, this show was without a doubt revolutionary. And it changed my whole perspective on what a cast could look like. In comparison to other Broadway theater shows that I've seen before, this was the most racially diverse cast by far that I've ever seen. And what I appreciated about Hamilton was that they took the risk to mix hip-hop with Broadway, which just seems like a really, really bad idea, but it turned out to be an amazing one. And after taking a deep dive into the original cast of Hamilton and finding out their backstories of the job opportunities that they could have had but took a risk on Hamilton when it was off Broadway, and just seeing the heart of the cast and knowing that they truly believed in the show, to me, that is what makes this show so revolutionary and extraordinary, and is definitely one for the books. However, it is 2020 now, and we have gone through lockdown, we have protested on the streets for racial equality, gone back in lockdown, encountered murder hornets, and the world has changed since Hamilton first came out. And I absolutely agree with the young woman that if you are a person of color, it is our time now to create our own shows and to have our own narrative. My show coming out next week! No, it's not. Don't quote me on that. And Hamilton received a lot of backlash for not diving into slavery enough, and for not acknowledging that George Washington was a slave owner, and that the Schuyler sisters were from a family who owned slaves. And in response to all of these critiques, Lin-Manuel Miranda said, all criticisms are valid. I haven't made my own show yet, but I feel like Lin-Manuel Miranda had a lot of emotional investment in the show. It took him 7 years to just write the show, and however many years to get the show off Broadway and then get it on Broadway. It definitely was no overnight success, and him and the cast were invested in it. And to take these criticisms and to say they are valid is just wow. He further states that he hopes that Hamilton will be a springboard for audiences to take a deeper dive into history and to create shows that are better and more innovative than his own. And that just blew my mind. With circus shows, we need to push the envelope and leave audiences questioning more about the world we live in and how we want to shape it for the better. And we need to listen to the audience when they give their feedback and criticism, because that's how you make your next show even better. So, is Hamilton worth the hype? I say yes! It has my stamp of approval. So leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think of Hamilton, and I love reading your responses and I love responding back to them. And if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe and ring that bell so that you will be notified every time I upload a new video. And I left a couple of videos for you here, and I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye!